Alrighty, good morning everybody. I got 5 minutes to tell you about three things: velocity, vulnerability, and vision. So imagine being in a situation where you're about to go into the biggest meeting of your year with one of the biggest government employment fund, pension funds in the Southern Hemisphere, and by size, one of the top 3 in the world, and you walk into this meeting and the faces that you see are all a blur. Imagine that evening attending a recital for your daughter's ballet, and it's wonderfully set against the backdrop of the evening, and the theme is Starry Night, and you look around to see your daughter, and all you see are blurry circles. Imagine then taking an 11-hour trip to the beautiful Eastern Cape that I'm sure we've all been to. And what usually is a very pleasant drive turns into a ride of panic and dismay, because looking out on the window, you can't anticipate danger because all you see are blurry visions of oncoming traffic. In the words of a great narrator from SpongeBob SquarePants, 1 week earlier. You see, I've got a condition called keratoconus, something I found out about which was quite weird. I found out that the shape of my cornea is not perfectly convex, but it actually over time has become more like a cone. It's a very familiar condition because many people do have it, but what is weird about mine is that it's both my left and my right eye. To solve this problem, it's quite easy. Without my lenses, I can see probably -15, and with the use of a very small piece of technology called a scleral lens, I can see 20/20. So when you come across a technology that solves a problem, obviously, you embrace it wholeheartedly. The challenge is you're only meant to wear a scleral lens for 4 to 5 hours a day. And in Cyril's economy, being an entrepreneur, I wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning, I go to sleep well after 9, I end up wearing it between 12 to 14 hours a day. Challenge then becomes, after time, with an advancing condition and the need for you to wear the scleral lens, my eyes started to swell up, and over time, I had to remove them in order to prescribe a more permanent solution. So what happens? I have to take out my eyes for 4 weeks and go for a month without vision. Something shifts when you don't have a sense that you used to really know as something as a superpower. And from a productivity perspective, I learned a new term called productivity shaming. I'm very, very concerned about being able to look at every single day and find out that I've been able to do something that's been useful. So from performing 25 to 35 high-impact tasks, from being able to achieve 95% productivity, everything tanked. I basically struggled to send 3 emails a day, and I basically struggled to function. The level of vulnerability, not only as a leader, as a man, and as a father, was astounding. I never experienced something like that in my life. In fact, going into my surgery, I tried to maintain an air of optimism, right? That's me on the right-hand side, smiling and trying to be that guy. Coming out of the surgery on the left-hand side, you will see that I don't look so optimistic anymore. Important thing when you go through stuff like this is to keep your eye on the bigger picture. Excuse the pun. Unfortunately for me, I had to have a procedure done both on my left and my right eye, right? So talk about getting into a boxing match with both hands tied behind your back. And in that process, focusing on the bigger picture becomes important, and a provocation for everyone in the room is the same thing, is when you think about where you're at, what are you refusing to do because you're not focused on seeing the bigger picture? You see, like history, when you look back on time, we've seen a very similar pattern emerge where people have faced severe tasks and challenges. When we see that technology was being introduced to teachers, trying to get them to be able to be far better educators, they pushed back against it. Why? Because they thought that computers would make the learning process far less impactful. In fact, novel reading was the same thing. They said, don't let kids read Mills and Boon because you're going to be inserting thoughts into their minds that are going to wreck them forever, right? Our natural reaction to anything that is new is fear, and we generally push back against it. Now, when you lose a sense, there's a very similar thing that happens. You have fear, and you push back against a lot. I decided I was going to go down the rabbit hole, and the rabbit hole meant moving from my sight to my hearing. In the absence of being able to see, I started consuming everything I could. I listened to podcasts. I started to learn about African history, about pivots in time and technology, understanding what I could do better, and then the occasional diary of a CEO here and there. But I really went down the rabbit hole. I learned to understand that without the ability to see, I could still listen. And the ability to listen managed to get me to learn. As I listened and I learned, I realized that my inability to type because I couldn't see a screen in front of me meant that I could use my voice to articulate the things that I needed to tell people. I learned how I could speak to my computer to turn into emails and send them to people, so within 1 hour a day, I could do 8 hours worth of productivity. What tended to happen by my embrace of AI is that my productivity shot through the roof. I took myself from feeling disabled and disempowered to being fundamentally embedded with a superpower. The embrace of AI and technology liberated me and created a new vision. It's almost like reinstalling an operating system. The fallacy that hours are determined in quality of output was challenged by my ability to use AI to achieve what I did in 8 hours in simply 1. And so when you reinstall your operating system, it creates a phenomenal opportunity to take an old way of thinking and plug it in with a new way of thinking, and therefore the best of the human and the best of the technology create phenomenal outcomes. Why this becomes important is we're right in the beginning of this phenomenal curve. The smart people from OpenAI tell us that we're right in the beginning of the technology that could really unlock humanity and Africa's prosperity. And if you're like me and you're curious about it, you also have to appreciate that when you're right in the beginning of a curve like this, your competitors might be as smart or not smarter than you are because they're looking at the blur and they're trying to figure out how to compete with you. So you have to get comfortable in moving in the blur. And this comfort really requires us to think about 3 very simple things. One is that AI can help you be human with the loop, human on the loop, and human in the loop. This means your embrace and grab of technology will get you to a point where you look at this particular statement by Sam Altman, and he talks about a renaissance. And this invitation is to think about how you move from simply a revolution in what you do to a renaissance in how you do it. As I see I'm being chased off the stage, I thank you for your time, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.